9,000! Oh yeah! Not Ringo.
Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I've got one anyway. If you're an animation fan like I am, then you would have most recently heard about the most recent passing away of Alan Young. Alan Young, born the 19th of November 1919, was an English-born Canadian-American actor, voice actor, comedian, radio host and television host. He was best known by me for voicing Scrooge McDuck in various Disney films, and most recently he passed away on the 19th of May 2016 to natural causes, and he left a legacy behind him. And I thought, what better way to commemorate the memory of this brilliant actor than by reviewing the film Ducktales the Movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. Ducktales the Movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp is a 1990 animated adventure fantasy film based on the animated TV series Ducktales. It was produced by Disney company Disney Movie Toons, which was mostly known for doing the TV series that were made by Disney. This movie was actually how I got into Ducktales in the first place. So is the movie as good as I remember it to be? Or is it just going to be a longer version of an episode? Well, let's take a look. Scrooge McDuck, played by the late Alan Young and the gang, travels to the Middle East to find the treasure of Kali Baba. But unbeknownst to them, an evil sorcerer named Murloc, played by Christopher Lloyd, is on the lookout for the treasure too, as the treasure contains a magic lamp that the thief stole from him centuries ago, and he knows that with his magic talisman that could turn him into any animal, he could connect it to the lamp to gain unlimited wishes. So he uses an idiotic pickpocket named Dijon as their tour guide to get the lamp.
After all these centuries, the lamp will be mine again!
Yes, yes! You will become more powerful than locomotive, more faster than Speedy Bull! You will leap all buildings in a single town!
But unfortunately for him, the lamp falls into the hands of Huey, Dewey, Louie and Webby, all voiced by Russi Taylor, who discovered that there's a genie inside the lamp, played by Rip Taylor, who just wants to have fun after years of imprisonment in the lamp. The kids use their free wishes to have fun, but when Scrooge finds out about the lamp, he of course uses it for his own selfish gains.
Well, obviously.
And eventually he's on the run from Murloc, who wants to take the lamp back and use it for his own evil, selfish deeds. And by some freak accident, Dijon ends up having the lamp and wishes to own Scrooge's fortune. As Scrooge and his family attempt to get the lamp back from Dijon and take back everything that was rightfully Scrooge's, Murloc steals the lamp and uses it for his own evil gains. So it's a big adventure to try and gain the lamp back from Murloc and undo all the evil things that he's been doing with the genie. When I was a kid, I loved the movie a lot, but what do I think of it today? It still holds up even to this day. This movie basically takes the whole plot that Ducktales was famous for. The gang going on adventures. And this was the first time I ever watched Ducktales. And before this movie it was mainly adverts of Ducktales videotapes on various Disney videotapes that I used to have. So you could say that if it wasn't for the movie I never would have gotten into Ducktales in the first place. And the biggest fear that most people have with movies based off of a TV series is that the movie could turn out to be like a longer episode of the show. But I never really felt that way, because each episode of Ducktales, even though I watched the show years later, actually felt like a mini-movie. So here they're just taking it up a notch by having it full length. It could have been easy for them to have just made this like a longer version of an episode of Ducktales. But to me it doesn't really feel like a longer episode of the show. Well, maybe it was because it was the first thing I ever saw from Ducktales-wise. And the characters that we all know from Ducktales are still the characters we all know in this movie. Scrooge McDuck, played by the late Alan Young, is still the greedy, money-loving duck who just wants to make a quick buck, even though he's already a quadrillionaire. There's his accident-prone pilot Launchpad, who I think gets the proper screen time that he deserves. I just always found Launchpad to be one of the funniest characters. And his first few lines when he mentions that he never actually took flying lessons always cracked me up when I was young, and they still do to this day. Huey, Dewey, Louie and Webby, all voiced by Rusty Taylor, are pretty much the same fun-loving rascals that they were in the TV series. As for the new characters, there's the Genie, played by Rip Taylor, who's basically a younger, tamer version of Genie from Aladdin. And I feel kind of bad for this guy since he was upstaged by Robin Williams when he played the Genie in Aladdin a few years later. But I could personally see why. I mean, this guy doesn't really come up with as many jokes as Robin Williams does, as Robin Williams improvised and came up with some more adult humour. But I think this Genie, played by Mr. Taylor, was a really good character. Because of his past, he was quirky and jumpy, but all in all, he just wanted to have fun after years of being imprisoned in the lab. And then there's the villain of the movie, Murloc, who I'm quite honestly surprised that no one on the internet puts him on any top 10 Disney animated villains lists, or as Animat said, puts him anywhere alongside Magica and Glumgold as the biggest Ducktales villains. He's been one of the most menacing characters in my childhood, and he's still one of the most menacing characters to this day, with his appearance, Christopher Lloyd's menacing voice, and his animal transformations as well. This was the first time I ever heard Christopher Lloyd's voice in a movie, and it was also the first time I heard Christopher Lloyd as the villain. But that villain would later be upstaged by Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But at the time, Murloc was really menacing, and he still is. And I really do enjoy the relationship between Murloc and the Genie, and their backstories as well. They're just so well told that it explains who they are, even though it's never really explained how long the two have lived for. And Murloc will stop at nothing to get the lamp back, even if it means killing off someone, even his own henchmen. And finally there's Dijon, Murloc's thieving and bumbling assistant. And he's the one character that might raise a few eyebrows, mainly because he has a thick accent, and would people see him as offensive now? And I personally never saw him as offensive, and I don't see him as offensive to this day. I mean, not everybody who's from his culture are pickpockets. And back then, people wouldn't have really thought twice about it, but these days, he might raise a few questions, like, is he offensive or is he not offensive? I'm really not sure if Dijon is offensive now, since people's sensitivity has changed over time. So, is he racist now, or is he, like, not racist? I'm not sure. But either way, he gets a few funny lines every now and then.
Oh, but look what I did steal. Several billfolds, this dandy pocket watch, floss, a big nut bar, and 2 tickets to the Feta Cheese Festival. For you, master. Maybe you would like the floss?
These days I find it a shame that this movie doesn't get as much attention as the TV series does. Though these days it is growing a big cult following with Ducktales fans, and it's still available on DVD for those to watch. And I bought it on DVD a couple of months back, and I still enjoy it to this day. And while the animation isn't exactly up there with some of the other animated films Disney have done, like Aladdin, The Lion King, Snow White, and all that stuff, it is a good improvement from the TV series' animation. I mean, the animation in the TV series was already top-notch, so they had to go up to even higher top-notch levels with this movie. And some bits of animation aren't really exactly up there with some of the other films I've mentioned, but it is really good animation compared to the TV series. And one of the biggest animation highlights in this movie is Murloc's animal transformations. I mean, it's just so amazing the way you see Murloc transform into these animals. A majority of his transformation scenes are done on screen rather than off screen, so you can literally see the guy turning into whatever animal he's turning into. That was friggin' amazing at the time. So to me, DuckTales the movie Treasure of the Lost Lamp is a great movie to add to your collection if you're a Disney and DuckTales fan. The characters are still the characters that we all know from the show, and the new characters will feel right at home in this movie. It's one of those films that doesn't really rely on adult jokes or anything, it's just more oriented towards kids and families, and that's exactly where it's supposed to be, since the show was pretty much for kids and families. Each episode of the show was basically like a shortened movie. So with this movie, they're just going all the way. And boy, was it worth it. So I would definitely recommend this movie to everyone who's ever been a DuckTales or Disney fan in general. If you're a DuckTales fan or Disney animation fan in general, then I definitely recommend this movie. It's worth the watch if you're a Disney fan and a DuckTales fan. And if LEGO ever considers doing a second series of Disney minifigures, then I would suggest doing one of Scrooge McDuck in honour of Alan Young. He deserves a LEGO Scrooge McDuck. I think Alan Young would have been really happy with that. And this whole review was done in the memory of Alan Young, known to me as Uncle Scrooge McDuck. See you in the next life, Alan Young. You are my Scrooge.